ask you guys this question as you contemplate Jake Burger in the lineup. You added by the way, the last 3 years, he's hit 250 every year.
And for the record, this doesn't necessarily mean that Nate Lowe's going away. I mean, it could, but I don't think that's an automatic for people that are concerned about that.
Before we get to that, let's look at this team, and you guys tell me what your lineup would be today. It's opening day. Everybody's healthy. Where are you slotting Jake Burger in this lineup?
I'm trying to figure that out because, Mike, ultimately, I would want Evan Carter 1, Wyatt Langford 2, Corey Seager 3, and then either Adolis or Burger 4. Okay. So that's what but then I'm looking at it going, now I have 3 right-handers in a row, and Adolis, Burger, and Josh Young. So I've got to figure out how to break that up a little bit. So I'm still trying to figure out how to map this one a little bit.
See, I think I want...
And Semien, so that's 4.
I think I want Langford first, and then Seager, and then Semien, and then Adolis, Lowe, Burger, maybe?
Yeah, I think
I can't get rid of Josh Smith.
It's going to be interesting.
Maybe 6.
Because I'm planning on the way baseball works today, and I don't disagree with this. It's interesting that it took maybe this long to figure it out. Is like, hey, so what? Omar Vizquel, he gets on base. He's fast. So if he gets on base, he's going to score from second easy. But then you're like, is Omar Vizquel one of our 2 best hitters?
Yeah.
No, he's like I'm thinking of Cleveland back in the day. You have Juan Gonzalez, who's better. You have Jim Thome, who's better. You have Roberto Alomar, who's better, right? You have multiple guys who would be better hitters. You'd get to Omar Vizquel and say, he's maybe our 5th best hitter. Then why are we batting him second? In fact, Kenny Lofton, right? So you're like, Kenny Lofton, then Omar Vizquel, then Roberto Alomar, then we get to Thome, and then we get to Juan Gonzalez. You're like, wait, you're limiting some of your best players at bats throughout a season because they're batting more in the middle of the order. My opinion is in order, Corey Seager is your best hitter. I don't think anybody will argue with that. Now it's like, who is going to be my second best hitter in 2025? If I say it's going to be Wyatt Langford, I want my 2 guys getting the most at-bats possible.
And that's what I think. And I like Langford as a leadoff better than I like Seager, even though he's your best
I don't
hitter.
think Seager wants to lead off.
I'm sure not.
Now, we know that Semien wants to lead off. Is now, if I'm looking at...
It's time to tell him what he's going to do instead.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but if I'm looking at OPS plus, there's a lot of extra stats. It's very tough. I love how many people come up to us at Buffalo Wild Wings or wherever we're at, whether is at
Bedford this week.
Bedford this week. We were at Palmer's Hot Chicken last week in North Dallas. Is people say, Mike, I don't really like baseball, or I didn't really like baseball, but I really like it now. I listen to Nuggets, and you get me interested. And I'm like, I love those comments because I get it. And then there's stats that are not easy to explain, and it would take me maybe a whole Nuggets to explain. But OPS plus, you want to be at 100 is kind of an average, and you want to be over that number. If you're over that number, good. OPS plus last year for Adolis Garcia was 94. For Jake Burger, it was 103, and for Nathaniel Lowe, it was 120. There's all kinds of different numbers because if you look at power-wise, you'd say Lowe by far is the worst.
People sleep on Nathaniel Lowe, don't they?
But if you look at OPS plus, it's a lot higher because he does get some extra base hits that Burger's not going to get. He is going to have more home runs. So then I start going, all right, and I'm not disagreeing with Corey, is Evan Carter being one, and then you don't want to bat Carter and Seager back-to-back, so that's why I think Langford, you had it too.
I'm breaking up the lefties with the righty, but I also have a lineup where I have Langford, Seager, Young is my top 3.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about Josh Young a little bit.
And Semien, where are we?
I have Semien 5th, and then I have Evan Carter 6th. And then Burger behind him.
I like Evan Carter 6th, or I might even go 7th, just because. And I know when we asked him about it, it wasn't his favorite question. There are legitimate concerns about his right-handed versus left-handed splits, and 100%. So I'm fine with sliding him in that 7th spot.
It's so weird to me, Mike. I don't understand it. Why left-handers have such a hard time hitting left-handers, but it seems like right-handers, it's no big deal.
Well, I know it was grade school and high school baseball for you, but how many times did you face a left-handed pitcher?
Probably 4.
Right, and so you're facing them so little.
Typically, like
you just don't, as a lefty, you're seeing the ball, let's say 80% of the time from a right-handed arm slot. So are you as a right-handed hitter. So when a left-hander comes in and the ball, you deal with this your whole life. As a left-handed hitter, we don't deal with this a lot. The ball is starting at you and then breaking away from you or moving away from you from a left-handed arm slot.
And most of the time,
you're used to that as a right-hander. As a left-hander, the first thing we do is bail out. We open up to be like, this ball's coming at me. Now I'm scared of the ball for that half of a click, and it takes time to get over that fear. Now, you're hoping at 22 years old, which Evan Carter is, you're hoping that he gets over that because his first movement on a left-hander is to get out of the way.
Okay.
And that's too extreme. I'm making that too extreme. He's not just trying to get out of the way of a ball like he's a 6-year-old.
But it's step one.
But yes. So Rafael Palmeiro, one of the greatest hitters of all time. We get it. Like, there's other things with Palmeiro, one of the greatest hitters of all time. He would talk about really keeping that front shoulder in, wanting to use the left center gap against a left-handed pitcher because I have to stay in there. If I bail out or if I leak out, then it opens up so many breaking ball pitches. And lefty on lefty, what do? A lot of times they throw that lefty breaking ball where it breaks further away from the guy. You can start it even more at the guy. So Evan Carter is the guy that you have to protect the most in the lineup because he has the most extreme splits in your lineup. So Evan Carter, for me, I'm going to start him, like you guys saying, somewhere between probably 6, 7, or 8.
Yep.
Probably my catcher is going to bat 9th, whoever the catcher is.
And that'll probably switch day to day.
Yeah, and so now the only thing is he is a very slow, whoever it is going to be a slow runner on the bases. You're just going to have to deal with that. But if Carter is on base and the catcher gets out, you have a super fast guy on for Langford and Seager to hit him in.
Yeah, and I was going to say, also wedged in between Berger and your catcher, neither of which are going to be particularly fleet of foot. I do like having Evan Carter right there, too, to be like, hey, I can help.
They can drive him over. They can. Berger can definitely hit some doubles and gaps that Evan Carter can score from first base.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where they put all of these guys in a lineup. They could just go back to, I would say, just write it down, Semien and Seager. I want Langford leading off. My opinion, it doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter.
But didn't you get the sense that Bochy is not locked in on Semien at number 1 and maybe Langford?
Yeah, I think there's a thought about that. Now, you have to remember this. I need to go back and look, but when George Springer and Marcus Semien were on the Blue Jays, I want to say Springer was the leadoff guy, and Semien was more of a RBI guy in their lineup. So he's done it before. Right before he came to the Texas Rangers, I don't believe he was leading off on a consistent basis on Toronto, but I could be wrong about that because they had George Springer. So I want to move Semien into more of somewhere between 3 and 6.
Okay.
I'm not, and then you have Josh Young, you have Adolis Garcia, you have Nathaniel Lowe, and you have Jake Berger. That is a good 3 through 7. I'm just not sure where to put all those guys.
A serious question. I don't want to make sure I say this right. Is 6 too much of a demotion from the leadoff? I know it's still an important spot in the lineup, but 1 to 3 still feels like, hey, you're always up in the first inning. You're going to get a ton of at-bats. 1 to 6 feels like, I mean,
you're a team guy?
We've lost.
You're an ultimate team guy, right?
That's a good question.
He is. We all have egos, though.
Yeah, I know. But
I hear what you're saying, and maybe it is. I do think this, Nathaniel Lowe, I don't think you should trade him.
Okay.
Because he is a patient hitter.
Yeah.
He's not a major power hitter, but his OPS plus would say, hey,
he gets crapped on, man. He's a solid part of your lineup.
And he draws walks. His OPS plus, why is it so much higher than Adolis Garcia and Jake Berger if he's not hitting close to the amount of home runs those guys are? Because he draws walks. And those guys don't.
They just can't hit a fastball.
So I'm thinking Berger and Semien or Adolis. I need Nathaniel in between those guys. First, he's a left-handed hitter. Second, he's going to draw pitches, and he's left-handed. And then I have Evan Carter, who, he can't hit lefties. Like, if I'm going to be an extreme, he can't hit lefties. But he does, full count Carter, he does draw a lot of pitches. He does get on base, and he is very fast on the bases. I'm hoping the Rangers are more aggressive on the bases this year. But it's going to be interesting, and I know I'm out of time. I'm thinking, now that you got Berger, and he replaces a lot of, well, first of all, he's good. And second of all, he does have very similar Adolis Garcia numbers. I'm not saying to trade Adolis Garcia, and he doesn't play outfield. Jake Berger doesn't play outfield. But if you had to move Adolis Garcia now to get something you really like, then Jake Berger replaces that. I would like to keep everybody, to be honest, but if you got to make moves and you got to trade money, and then Adolis Garcia, he's only a 1-year guy left on your team.
Yep.
And then I think you're moving on. I'm not 100% sure. It'll matter what the market is, but it'll just be interesting what the Rangers lineup looks like. I want it to be Langford, Seager, and then we build from there, but I'm not saying that the Rangers don't go Semien, Seager, and then build from, and it'd probably be Semien, Seager, Langford, and then build from there.